Two of the cheapest things in your kitchen might be doing more for your body than you realize. I didn't believe it either. Not at first. But the story of cloves and cinnamon together isn't a miracle one. It's something quieter, slower, and in some ways, more interesting. Today, I want to walk you through what actually happens when these two spices meet inside your body. Not the dramatic version, the honest one. The science, the tradition, and the one mistake that quietly cancels everything else. Before we go further, I should say something. I'm not a doctor, and nothing in the next 14 minutes replaces a conversation with yours. This is information, not prescription. If you have a condition, please listen with that in mind. For thousands of years, in homes from southern India to the streets of old Damascus, people have been mixing cloves and cinnamon, not because it was trendy, because it worked, or seemed to, long before laboratories existed. Long before words like antioxidant or polyphenol entered our vocabulary. The interesting thing is what modern science has started to confirm in the last 20 years. These two spices don't just sit in your tea looking pretty. They contain compounds eugenol from cloves and cinnamaldehyde from cinnamon that interact with the body in measurable ways. The internet has gotten loud about this. Headlines about irreversible changes, promises of overnight transformation. I want to be careful with that kind of language. The body doesn't change overnight, and the word irreversible doesn't quite belong in this conversation. What's actually happening when you drink this combination consistently is slower, less dramatic, and in some ways more meaningful. Let me explain. There's something in this combination that researchers have only begun to understand. It's not what each spice does on its own, it's what they do together. And there's a specific way of preparing it that many seniors miss. Skip that step, and you lose almost the entire benefit. I'll show you later. First, the science. Let me share what the research actually says. One of the more often quoted studies on cinnamon and blood sugar came out in 2003 in the journal Diabetes Care, led by researchers in Pakistan. They worked with 60 adults who had type 2 diabetes, giving them between 1 and 6 grams of cinnamon a day for 40 days. The result was a modest but real reduction in fasting blood glucose. Follow-up studies have been mixed. Some confirm a small effect. Others show very little. That is how science usually works. It is rarely a clean answer. But the pattern across the research, especially in people over 60 with mild blood sugar concerns, points in one direction. Cinnamon may support a healthier glucose response, particularly when taken with meals. Cloves have less direct human research. Most of what we know comes from laboratory studies, and a smaller number of trials looking at eugenol's effect on inflammation and oral health. The honest answer is that for cloves specifically, the evidence in older adults is suggestive, not settled. We have promising signals, we do not yet have proof. And the distinction matters more than you might think, because the next part is what actually determines whether this combination works for you at all. If this is useful to you, the kindest thing you can do is hit subscribe. It tells YouTube to show this to others who need it. No pressure. Just one click if it feels right, then come right back. The next part is where this combination starts to make real sense. This is what is actually happening when you drink warm water steeped with cloves and cinnamon. Eugenol and cinnamaldehyde are both lipophilic compounds, meaning they dissolve in fats. That matters once they enter your bloodstream. They don't just float around looking for somewhere to go. They reach tissues that water-soluble compounds struggle to reach. The lining of your gut, the cells of your blood vessels, the membranes inside your mouth. Eugenol has been studied for its effect on inflammatory pathways, particularly something called COX-2 and certain cytokines. In plain language, those are the chemical messengers your body uses to keep inflammation going. Cinnamaldehyde acts on a different but overlapping set of pathways. And this is where the research starts to get worth your attention, because something specific happens when these two compounds enter the body together. When researchers look at cloves and cinnamon separately, the effects are modest, real, but modest. When they look at them together, something subtle changes. Not a multiplication, a coverage effect. Picture inflammation as water leaking from 3 different cracks in a pipe. One spice helps with the first crack. The other helps with the second. Together, they cover more of what is actually happening, instead of attacking the same point twice. That is the simplest way I can explain what synergy means in this context. I want to be careful here, because this is where many channels overstate things. Synergy is a word people throw around to make things sound more powerful than they are. The actual research on clove-cinnamon combinations in humans is still early. What we have are promising laboratory results. Traditional use stretching back centuries, and a small but growing number of human studies suggesting the combination supports a calmer inflammatory response, not erases it, erases. Not cures it, just supports it. That word matters. Support means the work is still being done by your body, your immune system, your liver, your gut. The spices are not the engine. They are passengers, helping the engine run a bit more smoothly. If your engine is being damaged daily by processed food, poor sleep and constant stress, the passengers cannot fix that. They can ease it. They cannot replace it. That is the honest framing, and the one most channels avoid, because it does not sell as well. There's a phrase circulating online about how this combination causes irreversible changes in the body. Words matter especially for those of us over 60 who have heard a lot of promises over the years. So let me say this plainly. Nothing about cloves and cinnamon is irreversible. The compounds are processed by your liver and cleared from your system within hours. If you stop drinking it, your body returns to its baseline. What can change if you drink this consistently for weeks and months is the underlying tone of low-grade inflammation many of us carry without knowing it. That steady hum of irritation in your tissues, the kind that builds slowly over years, does shift when you reduce the inputs that drive it. But that shift comes from many small things working together. Better sleep, less processed sugar, movement, even just walking. Cloves and cinnamon are one piece, a useful piece, not the whole picture. What I'm about to show you next is the part of this story most channels never address. Because if you do not understand how these compounds actually move through your body, the choices you make about how to prepare them will quietly cancel everything we have just talked about. Let me give you a way to picture this that might help. Think of your body as a house you have lived in for 60, 70 years. Over time, small things accumulate. Dust gathers in the corners. A draft develops from a window that does not quite close. A faucet starts dripping at night. None of it is an emergency. But left alone, decade after decade, those small things compound. Inflammation works that way. It is not the dramatic break, it is the slow accumulation. The compounds in cloves and cinnamon do not renovate the house, they do not fix the foundation. What they may do is help with the small daily maintenance. Wiping down the dust, tightening a loose hinge, things that on any single day do not seem to matter at all. But over weeks, over months, done consistently. That kind of maintenance is what keeps a 60-year-old house standing as long as it does. And in the body, that is how chronic inflammation softens. Not dramatically, not visibly, just steadily. The research that has emerged in the last decade has begun to support what tradition has held for centuries. These spices are not magic. They are tools, small ones. Used patiently, they earn their place in your routine. But before you start, there is something you absolutely need to know. Because for some of you, this combination is not just unhelpful. It could be risky. I want to slow down here. Because not everyone should drink this combination, and even among those who can, the right approach looks different. If you are over 70, start with less. A single clove and a quarter teaspoon of cinnamon is plenty. Older bodies process compounds more slowly. The same amount that feels gentle at 60 can feel strong at 75. Listen to your body. Pull back if you need to. If you take blood sugar medication like metformin glipizide or insulin, please talk to your doctor before adding this. Cinnamon may lower blood sugar. Combined with medication, it can push you too low, which can become a real emergency. Dizziness, weakness, cold, sweat. Take this seriously. If you are on blood thinners like warfarin, the same caution applies. Eugenol can affect how your blood clots in small but real ways. Worth a conversation with your physician before you start. If you have liver concerns, the type of cinnamon matters more than the amount. Stick with Ceylon, sometimes labeled as true cinnamon, not cassia. Cassia contains higher levels of a compound called coumarin, which can stress the liver in regular use. Ceylon has only trace amounts. Your label will tell you which one. If it does not say, it is almost certainly cassia. If you have a chronic condition, I have not named kidney issues, ulcers. Anything you take medication for, the answer is the same. Talk to your doctor first. There is no rush. The spices will still be there next week. The practical part. How to actually make this in a way that works. Start with 3 whole cloves and half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon. Ceylon, not cassia, for the reason we just talked about. Use whole cloves and ground cinnamon or a cinnamon stick if you have one. Whole spices preserve their oils better than pre-ground. Place them in a glass and pour 8 ounces of warm water over them. Not boiling. Warm enough to steep, gentle enough to preserve the volatile compounds. Cover the glass and let it sit for 15 to 20 minutes. Or if you want a stronger infusion, leave it overnight on your nightstand and drink it in the morning. Strain it before drinking. Drink it on an empty stomach before breakfast. That timing matters. Food, especially fatty food, can blunt absorption of the oils we have been talking about. A common mistake here is thinking more is better. So people add 5 cloves, a full teaspoon of cinnamon, drink it 3 times a day. Higher doses do not multiply benefit. They multiply side effects. Stomach irritation, nausea. In some cases, liver stress. The research suggests a small, consistent amount over time outperforms a large amount taken occasionally. 1 glass a day, same time each morning, for 4 to 6 weeks before you decide if it is helping. The body needs that long to settle into a new pattern. I want to be honest with you about something most channels will not say. This combination is not for everyone. If you are pregnant, please skip it entirely. If you have an active stomach ulcer, the warming spices can irritate it. If you are scheduled for surgery in the next 2 weeks, stop drinking it. Eugenol can affect bleeding. And even for those who can drink it safely, the honest expectation is modest. Some people feel a calmer digestion within a week. Others feel nothing for a month, and then notice their afternoon energy is steadier. A few notice nothing at all, and that is also a real outcome. Spices are not medicine. They are quiet support, layered onto the rest of how you live. If this was useful, leave a comment below, telling me one thing you are going to try this week. I read every comment, and the next video usually comes from a question one of you asked. Take care of yourself, my friend. We will talk again soon.